Recording entry hash 547, Galactic date 3279.4. The Grand Chamber of the Unified Species Council buzzed with an energy I hadn't felt in my 300 cycles of diplomatic service. Today, we prepared for first contact with the species known as humans. My name is Ambassador Crix, representing the Centauri Empire, and as Chief of First Contact Protocol, I must ensure everything proceeds according to our ancient traditions. The chamber itself was a sight to behold. Hovering platforms arranged in concentric circles, each bearing representatives from the 47 spacefaring civilizations. Light from our system's 3 suns streamed through the crystalline dome, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled dignitaries. The air crackled with anticipation, and various appendages twitched nervously. "Order, order in the chamber!" Supreme Chancellor Vox's voice boomed through the neural amplifiers. Their bioluminescent crests flashed in synchronization with their words. "We gather here to discuss the approaching first contact with the Earth species." I shuffled my data crystals, preparing my presentation. The holographic display activated, showing surveillance footage of human military parades, their primitive but fascinating nuclear weapons, and their curiously aggressive sports competitions. "As protocol dictates," I announced, my voice steady despite my inner excitement, "we must present the full might of our combined civilizations. The humans understand strength. They respect power. Our analysis of their entertainment broadcasts confirms this repeatedly." Chancellor Vox nodded approvingly, their head tendrils swaying. "Excellent, Ambassador Crix. What forces have we assembled?" 10,000 warships from across our member species," I reported proudly. "The largest gathering since the Proxima Rebellion. We've positioned the Drachnid dreadnoughts at the forefront. Their crystalline hulls alone span 20 kilometers. The Arcturus battle fleet will provide the honor guard and—" "What about their response?" interrupted Representative Zool of the Silicon Consciousness, their robotic form gleaming. "Have they acknowledged our strength demonstration protocols?" I clicked my mandibles in amusement. They sent a brief message, just 3 words. "Sounds good, thanks." The chamber erupted in confused murmuring. Such a casual response to our most sacred protocols, but I assured them this must be a translation error. "We expect their flagship to arrive within 12 rotations," I continued, trying to maintain decorum. "Our intelligence suggests it will be their mightiest vessel, bristling with weapons, commanded by their fiercest warriors." Little did I know then, but my carefully crafted predictions about human behavior were about to be shattered like a glass ornament in a gravity well. The humans, as we would soon learn, had a very different interpretation of showing strength. "Prepare the ceremonial fleet formations," Chancellor Vox commanded. "Let us show these humans the true meaning of galactic power." The assembly chambers filled with approving clicks, hums, and bioluminescent flashes. We were ready. We were prepared. We had reviewed every protocol, positioned every ship, and calibrated every ceremonial weapon display. We weren't ready at all. Recording entry hash 547 continued. Our combined fleet created the most magnificent display of military might ever assembled in the known galaxy. Drachnid dreadnoughts positioned their crystalline hulls to catch and reflect starlight in dazzling patterns. The Arcturus battle fleet's energy shields pulsed in perfect synchronization, creating waves of iridescent light across the void. Even the normally stoic Silicon Consciousness had polished their cubic vessels to mirror-like perfection. "Contact!" announced the sensor officer, their tentacles writhing with excitement. "Human vessel approaching through hyperspace." I straightened my ceremonial robes and activated the grand viewing screen. This was the moment. Their mighty flagship would emerge, bristling with weapons, ready to match our display of— "There must be some mistake," Chancellor Vox said, their bioluminescence dimming in confusion. "Recalibrate the sensors." But the sensors were working perfectly. Through the void of space came a single shuttle. Not a battleship, not a dreadnought, a shuttle. It was roughly the size of a Drachnid's escape pod, painted bright white with blue stripes. The vessel bore no visible weapons, no shield generators, and, most shockingly, had a bumper sticker that read, Honk if you love tentacles. Perhaps, I suggested hopefully, it's a scout for their main fleet. The communication crystal chimed. "Incoming transmission," reported our communications officer, their feathers ruffling in anticipation. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a human male with untamed facial hair and what appeared to be a food stain on his shirt. He was reclining in his pilot's chair, feet propped up on the console, showing off what we would later learn were called flip-flops, primitive foot protection that seemed wholly inadequate for interstellar diplomacy. "Hey there," the human waved casually. "I'm Jack Murphy, Earth's diplomatic representative. Sweet fleet you've got here. Mind if I dock? I brought snacks." Chancellor Vox's translator took 3 attempts to process the informal language. I felt my exoskeleton crawling with embarrassment. Where was the formal declaration of strength? The ritual exchange of military capabilities, the traditional threats of mutual destruction? "You brought snacks?" I managed to ask. "Yeah, got some Doritos, couple bags of M&Ms, and my special guacamole. Though fair warning, the guac might be a bit spicy for non-human taste buds. Made that mistake at the Proxima Centauri embassy last week. Poor guy hiccuped antimatter for 3 days." The Grand Chamber fell silent. 10,000 warships, the combined might of 47 civilizations, faced off against a single human in beach sandals, offering spicy vegetable paste. "Ambassador Crix," Chancellor Vox whispered to me, their voice strained. "Did we make a catastrophic error in our intelligence gathering?" Before I could respond, Jack's voice crackled through again. "Oh, hey, by the way, love what you've done with the fleet formation. The way those crystal ships catch the light. Totally Instagram-worthy. Mind if I take a quick selfie before I dock?" I watched in horror as the human pulled out a primitive imaging device and proceeded to snap pictures of himself with our mighty armada in the background, making something called a peace sign with his fingers. The Silicon Consciousness representatives' logic circuits audibly whirred as they attempted to process this unprecedented breach of protocol. 3 Drachnid commanders fainted, their crystalline forms tinkling against their command chairs, and somewhere in the background I could have sworn I heard someone whisper, "By the void. They're more advanced than we thought." If only we knew then just how right that whisper would prove to be. Recording entry #547, supplemental, the High Council's reception chamber, a room designed to intimidate even the most hardened space warriors, had never witnessed anything quite like this. Our most skilled architects had spent centuries perfecting its imposing atmosphere, walls of shifting dark matter, floors that rippled with quantum uncertainty, and anti-gravity platforms that kept visitors perpetually off balance. Jack Murphy walked in whistling. "Man, this place is wild," he exclaimed, purposefully scuffing his flip-flops on the quantum floor to watch the probability ripples. "It's like that one time I went to a rave in Miami, except with better lighting." Chancellor Vox sat upon the throne of unified authority, their bioluminescent crests now pulsing with barely contained confusion. 47 species watched as this human approached the sacred speaker's circle, carrying what appeared to be a crumpled paper bag. "Honored representative of Earth," Chancellor Vox began, their voice resonating through neural amplifiers. "You stand before the combined power of the Galactic—" "Oh shoot, hang on," Jack interrupted, rummaging through his bag. "Almost forgot. Brought you guys something." He pulled out a plastic container and held it up triumphantly. "Guacamole. And before you ask, yes, this is technically a show of strength. This is my grandmother's recipe. And let me tell you, it has brought stronger beings than you to their knees." The Silicon Consciousness representatives' warning lights began flashing. "Threat detected. Biological weapon." "What? No, no," Jack laughed, popping open the container. "It's just really spicy. Also brought chips. Anyone want some? No? More for me, then." He proceeded to make himself comfortable on the quantum floor, cross-legged, dipping chips into his grandmother's allegedly weapons-grade guacamole. I cleared my throat, attempting to salvage some semblance of protocol. "Mr. Murphy, we have assembled the mightiest fleet in galactic history to greet humanity's entry into the galactic community. Our combined firepower could reduce solar systems to cosmic dust, and you arrive alone in sandals?" Jack looked up from his snack, genuinely puzzled. "Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you guys said, show strength, right? Nothing stronger than being comfortable enough to show up as yourself." He gestured at his outfit. "Besides, these aren't just any sandals. They're limited edition Star Wars flip-flops. See? Got little Yodas on them." The Drachnid ambassador's crystalline form vibrated with indignation. "This is an outrage! Where is your military escort, your weapons, your means of enforcing diplomatic demands?" Jack shrugged, licking guacamole off his thumb. "Don't need 'em. Look, I get it. You guys put on this amazing show. Those crystal ships, gorgeous. The synchronized shield thing, super cool. But strength isn't just about who's got the biggest guns or the fanciest fleet." He stood up, brushing chip crumbs from his cargo shorts, and somehow, despite his casual attire and complete lack of formal posture, commanded the attention of every being in the chamber. "Real strength? It's about being secure enough to show up as you are. It's about being able to face the unknown with a smile and some snacks. And let me tell you something about humans. We're really, really good at that." Chancellor Vox's crests dimmed thoughtfully. "You mean to tell us that this informality is your species' demonstration of power?" "Part of it," Jack grinned. "The other part is knowing we could have shown up with our own fancy fleet, but chose not to. Because the strongest person in the room isn't the one showing off their muscles. It's the one wearing flip-flops to a black tie event and making it work." The chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. Not the embarrassed quiet of before, but something closer to awe, or possibly fear. It's hard to tell with some species, especially the gaseous ones. "Now," Jack said, clapping his hands together, "who wants to learn how to make a proper Earth margarita? Trust me, if you think the guac is a show of strength, wait till you try tequila." I quickly updated my diplomatic notes. Humans far more dangerous than initially assessed. Weapon status, everything is potentially a weapon, including hospitality. Recording entry #547 negotiation phase. The Grand Negotiation Chamber had hosted thousands of critical diplomatic sessions over the millennia. Its quantum-linked translation matrices, psychic dampening fields, and reality stabilizers ensured perfect communication and prevented both physical and metaphysical conflicts. Today, those ancient systems were struggling to process human diplomat Jack Murphy's unique approach to intergalactic relations. "So here's the deal," Jack said, now lounging in the sacred chair of equal standing, sideways with his legs draped over one armrest. "You guys want access to Earth's hyperspace routes. We want access to your tech. But mainly we want to set up a chain of Mexican restaurants across the galaxy. Those are our terms." The Drachnid Trade Minister's crystalline form crackled with confusion. "You want to exchange cuisine?" "Not just cuisine," Jack corrected, pulling a tablet from his cargo shorts pocket. "Experience, culture, the sacred art of Taco Tuesday. Also, we noticed your ships run on quantum fusion. We could probably help upgrade those to something more efficient." "More efficient?" The Silicon Consciousness representative's processing lights blinked rapidly. "Our drives are the most advanced in known space." Jack shrugged, now attempting to balance a pen on his nose. "I mean, they're cool and all, but they're kind of like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut, you know? Our engineers took one look at your specs and said, and I quote, 'Bless their hearts, they're trying their best.'" Chancellor Vox leaned forward, their bioluminescence intensifying. "You claim humans have superior technology, yet you arrived in what appears to be little more than a space-worthy escape pod?" "Oh, that old thing," Jack grinned, catching the pen as it fell. "That's just my personal shuttle. Named her the Casual Friday. She's kind of a classic, like showing up to a car show in a beat-up '67 Mustang. Sure, I could have rolled up in something fancy, but where's the fun in that?" I watched in fascination as Jack proceeded to draw a rough diagram on his tablet, explaining how human engineers had apparently solved the quantum entanglement instability issue that had plagued our best scientists for generations. He did this while simultaneously trying to teach Chancellor Vox how to play something called rock, paper, scissors. "See, your problem is you're overthinking it," he explained, both about the quantum physics and the game. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Like right now, you keep choosing rock because it seems strongest, but that's why paper keeps beating you. The Chancellor's tendrils twitched. "This game is a metaphor for diplomatic relations. Everything's a metaphor if you think about it hard enough," Jack winked. "Speaking of which, who's hungry? I brought burritos." The Drachnid Trade Minister raised a crystalline appendage. "Before we discuss burritos, we must address the 17,000 subclauses of the Standard Trade Agreement." Jack was already unwrapping his lunch. 17,000. Yikes. How about this? We'll give you our quantum engineering specs, you fast-track approval for Taco Bell franchises in the Orion arm. And we'll throw in our anti-gravity tech as a bonus. The paperwork can catch up later. "That's not protocol," I protested. "The subclauses are essential for making things complicated," Jack suggested, taking a bite of his burrito. "Look, I get it. You guys love your protocols, but sometimes strength means knowing when to cut through the red tape. Like this burrito, sure, I could deconstruct it into its component parts, analyze each ingredient and write a thesis on proper burrito assembly protocols, or I could just enjoy it." The Silicon Consciousness representative's logic circuits began smoking slightly. "Your diplomatic approach defies all known parameters." "Thanks," Jack beamed, clearly taking it as a compliment. "Here's the thing about humans. We've learned that sometimes the strongest move is to refuse to play by the expected rules. You all assembled this amazing fleet to show strength. We showed up in flip-flops with snacks. And who's controlling this negotiation right now?" The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Chancellor Vox's bioluminescence shifted to a thoughtful purple. "You were demonstrating strength? By demonstrating you didn't need to demonstrate strength? Now you're getting it." Jack offered the Chancellor half of his burrito. "Want to try some? Fair warning, it's spicy. But then again, the best things in life usually are." I quickly added another note to my diplomatic observations. "Humans, masters of weaponizing informality, exercise extreme caution when offered food items. They know exactly what they're doing, even when, especially when, it appears they don't." Recording entry #547 Crisis Protocol engaged. No one expected the Kryvax Empire to crash our negotiations. They were an ancient species, notorious for their rigid adherence to military might and their complete lack of a sense of humor. Their arrival was heralded by the sudden appearance of 2,000 warships, their obsidian hulls absorbing light like cosmic predators. I watched in horror as Jack Murphy's response to this potential catastrophe was to finish his burrito. "Interesting timing," he mused, brushing crumbs from his shirt. "Almost like they were waiting for a dramatic moment." The Kryvax Supreme Commander's hologram materialized in our chamber, a towering figure wrapped in living shadow armor. Their voice resonated with the kind of authority that typically sent lesser species scrambling for cover. "This sector belongs to the Kryvax Empire," the commander announced. "These negotiations are now under our jurisdiction. Surrender your fleets or face annihilation." Chancellor Vox rose from their throne, tendrils crackling with diplomatic static. "The Unified Species Council does not recognize Kryvax authority in this sector." "Then you shall recognize our superiority through force," the commander growled. "And as for the humans," their holographic gaze fixed on Jack, "your species' reputation for weakness is confirmed by this pathetic display of diplomacy." Jack stood up, stretched, and adjusted his flip-flops. "You know what's funny?" he said in the casual tone one might use to discuss the weather. "Everyone keeps focusing on the flip-flops, but nobody's asked about the phone." The Kryvax commander paused. "What phone?" Jack pulled out his seemingly primitive communication device. This phone, the one I've been playing games on, the one that's been running a complete analysis of your fleet's capabilities since you dropped out of hyperspace." He tapped the screen a few times. "By the way, you might want to check your ship's quantum signatures. They're looking a little unstable." Alarms suddenly blared across the Kryvax fleet. Their supposedly impenetrable shadow armor began flickering like faulty light bulbs. "What have you done?" the commander demanded. "Me? Nothing much, just ran a little app our tech guys whipped up. They call it Quantum Handshake Protocol. Basically, it says hello to your quantum cores in a way they're really not prepared to handle. Kind of like trying to high-five someone who's expecting a formal bow." The commander's hologram flickered. "Impossible. Our shields are about as effective as a paper umbrella in a hurricane right now," Jack finished, still tapping away at his phone. "Don't worry, it's temporary. Just wanted to make a point about assumptions and appearances." I watched in amazement as the mighty Kryvax fleet hung helpless in space, their fearsome weapons reduced to expensive decorations by what appeared to be a human mobile game. "Now," Jack continued, pulling out a bag of something called hot Cheetos, "we could do this the traditional way. Fleet battles, dramatic speeches, thousands of casualties, lots of paperwork. Or," he offered the bag to the commander's hologram, "we could try something new." The commander's shadow armor rippled with rage. "You dare mock the might of the Kryvax?" "Not mocking, suggesting. See, while everyone was focused on my casual attire and snack choices, they missed something important. Humans don't show strength the way you expect, because we don't think about strength the way you do. We turned war into a sport, made weapons into toys, and developed some of our most devastating technologies, while trying to figure out better ways to share cat videos." He gestured at the assembled alien diplomats. "These folks figured it out pretty quick. They saw past the flip-flops and realized that true strength isn't about looking strong. It's about being strong enough to not care how you look." The commander's hologram loomed closer. "Your fleet, where is it?" Jack grinned. "Who says we don't already have one here? Maybe there's 100 stealth ships watching us right now. Maybe that phone app was just a distraction. Maybe these flip-flops are actually advanced combat armor, or maybe," he crunched loudly on a hot Cheeto, "maybe we're so far ahead that we don't need any of that to handle this situation." The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. The Silicon Consciousness Representative's probability processors were now completely offline, unable to calculate the odds of what they were witnessing. "Here's what's going to happen," Jack announced, his casual tone carrying an edge that hadn't been there before. "You're going to withdraw your fleet, join these nice folks in their Unified Species Council, and open at least 3 franchise locations for Earth restaurants in your territory. In return, we'll pretend this little incident never happened, and even throw in the quantum stabilization tech you clearly need." The commander's hologram crackled with barely contained fury. "And if we refuse," Jack shrugged, "then I post the video I just took of your fleet being disabled by a guy in beachwear eating snacks. I'm sure that will do wonders for your reputation as a warrior species." He paused thoughtfully. "Also, this phone has a few other apps you probably wouldn't enjoy." The silence that followed was profound enough to make a black hole feel chatty. Chancellor Vox's bioluminescence had shifted to a shade of awe I'd never seen before. "Ambassador Crix," they whispered to me, "update the first contact protocols, all of them." The Kryvax commander's hologram flickered one last time. "Your terms are acceptable." "Cool," Jack said, already rummaging in his bag for more snacks. "Anyone want to celebrate with some salsa? It's mild, I promise. Learned my lesson after the Proxima Centauri incident." As the Kryvax fleet retreated and the crisis subsided, I found myself staring at this human who had just diffused an interstellar war while dressed for a beach party. My final diplomatic note of the day read, "Warning, human diplomatic strategy incomprehensible yet devastatingly effective. Do not under any circumstances assume their informality indicates weakness. Also, avoid their grandmother's guacamole unless medical facilities are nearby. Recording entry #547 final analysis." The aftermath of what became known as the flip-flop incident sent ripples through the galactic diplomatic community that would last for centuries. I found myself back in the Grand Chamber, delivering what might be the most important report of my career to a significantly humbled Unified Species Council. "Distinguished representatives," I began, my mandibles clicking nervously. "Our initial assessment of human diplomatic and military capabilities was, well, there's no other way to say this. We got played like a drachnid crystal harp. The chamber's quantum displays showed footage from the past 72 hours. Jack Murphy, still in his flip-flops, touring our most advanced facilities, solving millennium-old engineering problems between snack breaks and somehow convincing the dreaded Kryvax Empire to open a chain of restaurants called Space Tacos. Following the crisis," I continued, "our deep space sensors detected something rather concerning. I activated a holographic star chart. Remember that small shuttle Mr. Murphy arrived in? Turns out it was broadcasting a signal. We traced it. Look here, here, and here." Red dots appeared across the map, thousands of them representing cloaked human vessels that had been watching us the entire time. They had surrounded our fleet so completely that our show of force had actually been contained within their perimeter. Chancellor Vox's bioluminescence had turned a pale shade of existential crisis. They let us perform our military display inside their own fleet formation. "Yes," I confirmed. "According to Jack, who told me this while building a house of cards in the zero-gravity chamber, they thought it was, and I quote, adorable, like watching kids put on a talent show." The Silicon Consciousness representatives' backup processors whirred to life, their primary systems having never recovered from the initial shock. Query: how did we miss their technological superiority? Their historical records showed them barely achieving spaceflight mere centuries ago. I pulled up another display, this one showing human entertainment broadcasts. Because we fundamentally misunderstood their nature. We saw their movies about space battles and assumed they were aspirational. They were actually historical documentation, heavily dramatized for entertainment, but based on capabilities they already possessed. While we were developing bigger weapons, I explained, they were developing better ways to hide them. While we were perfecting our intimidation protocols, they were mastering the art of appearing harmless. Their diplomatic strategy wasn't a strategy at all. It was their culture's natural evolution. The Drachnid ambassador's crystalline form shimmered with disbelief. "The flip-flops were deliberate psychological warfare?" "No," I sighed. "That's what makes it worse. Jack really just likes flip-flops. The humans are so advanced that they don't need to engage in psychological warfare. Their casual confidence is genuine because they have nothing to prove." I brought up footage from the previous day's cultural exchange event, where Jack had introduced the concept of karaoke to the council. The sight of the Kryvax commander attempting to sing something called Sweet Home Alabama would haunt my nightmares forever. Their real strength, I continued, lies in their adaptability. They turned our most sacred protocols into a party, our military display into a photo opportunity, and our crisis into a business expansion. And they did it all without once dropping their facade of casual friendliness. The chamber erupted in concerned murmuring. Chancellor Vox raised their tendrils for silence. "What are your recommendations, Ambassador Crix?" I straightened my posture. "First, immediate ratification of all trade agreements. The humans have already begun installing something called Wi-Fi throughout our territories. Half our species have become addicted to something called cat videos. Second, mandatory reforms to our first contact protocols. The show of strength requirement clearly needs revision, perhaps something involving food sharing and casual conversation. Finally, I activated one last holographic display showing economic projections. Prepare for significant cultural changes. Human restaurants are opening across the galaxy. Their entertainment broadcasts are being shared between species. 3 Drachnid cruise ships have already been converted into something called spring break party boats. Jack Murphy chose that moment to stroll into the chamber, wearing a new pair of flip-flops decorated with glowing quantum circuitry. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he called out cheerfully. "Just wanted to let you know the first batch of human diplomats will be arriving next week. Fair warning, they're bringing their pets." The Silicon Consciousness representative's cooling fans kicked into overdrive. "Pets? Yeah, dogs mostly, few cats. One guy's bringing his emotional support alligator. Don't worry, it's very friendly." I watched the assembled representatives try to process this new information. "Mr. Murphy," I ventured, "now that the crisis is over, would you be willing to speak candidly about human capabilities?" Jack grinned, pulling out a bag of something labelled Cool Ranch Doritos. "Sure, though to be honest, we've been pretty candid from the start. You guys just didn't believe us because we weren't being dramatic enough. You see," he continued, offering the bag around the chamber, "humans learn something important early in our development. The more advanced you become, the less you need to prove it. We could have shown up with massive warships, superweapons, and fancy uniforms, but why? That's like bringing a tank to a dinner party." Chancellor Vox's tendrils twitched. "But surely there must be times when show of force is necessary." "Oh, sure," Jack nodded. "But real force doesn't need to be shown off. It just needs to be there. Like that fleet we had cloaked around yours. Standard procedure. We call it the trust but verify approach. Or in this case, trust but keep enough firepower nearby to vaporize a solar system just in case." The chamber fell silent as the full implications sank in. Here was a species so powerful they could treat first contact like a casual social call, so advanced they could hide world-ending capabilities behind snack foods and beachwear, so confident they could defuse an interstellar crisis with a mobile phone game. "One last question," I asked. "The flip-flops, were they really just flip-flops?" Jack looked down at his feet. "Well, mostly. They're also quantum-linked to Earth's defense network and can teleport me to safety if needed. Plus, they're really comfortable. Speaking of which," he brightened, "who wants to head down to the new beach resort we just finished terraforming on your fourth moon? First round of margaritas is on me." As the chamber slowly emptied, representatives still dazed by the revelations, I made my final entry in the diplomatic database. Humanity, classification update to technological level far beyond initial assessment. Military capability unknown but assume maximum. Diplomatic approach deceptively casual, threat level extreme but mostly benign. Primary cultural exports, food, entertainment, and a disturbing ability to turn any situation into a party. Additional notes: do not under any circumstances assume their informality indicates weakness. Their apparent lack of protocol is their protocol. Also, their food should be considered a controlled substance, their casual wear might be advanced technology in disguise, and their pets are coming. May the void help us all. End recording. As I prepared to close the log, I heard Jack's voice echo down the corridor. "Hey, who wants to learn how to surf? Don't worry about the radiation levels. That's what sunscreen is for." I quickly added one final line. "PS update emergency medical protocols to account for human recreational activities. They call them extreme sports for a reason."